Hello and welcome to the Astro Garden, a place for astrologers to chat all things astro. I'm your host Janessa of By Jove Astrology. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, welcome back to the Astro Garden. Today is Monday, September 23rd, 2024. And the sun is now officially in Libra as of yesterday. Fall has started here in the Northern Hemisphere. Today is like the first really crisp day that we've had in a while. It was really just refreshing this morning going outside to take the kids to school and finally getting that really satisfying fall air, and like the sky is clear to match. So I've been really enjoying that this morning. So yeah, Libra season. The sun is here. The sun is technically in its fall in Libra, which, makes for an interesting time. The sun is kind of about the self. Like if we look at where it's exalted in in Aries across the way from Libra, that's where the sun is in its most highest place, where it's the most, I want to say worshipped, but like exalted, like the guest of honor. So in Libra season, it kind of becomes more about the other and the relationship. So the individual kind of like fades away and gets a little bit lost here. If we think about the quality of light, it starts at the equinox, right? So it's when the day and the night are equal in the amount of time that they both have. And then from there, it starts waning. The daytime starts waning and the night starts to take over. But at that very first point, they're exactly equal. And that's, what Libra is all about, balancing those things and weighing things to see if they're equal and measuring. So yeah, big emphasis on that. We're still in the middle of eclipse season. We've got the next eclipse coming up next week, and that will be in the Libra Aries axis again. So there's lots going on in terms of like self and others, how we relate to other people. I just recorded an episode of the Decans podcast with Krista of Practical Astros. She's doing this project where every season she sits down with an astrologer who has placements in that sign and talks through the decans of it. And she breaks it down by looking at the tarot that corresponds with each decan, and just kind of a chance to go in depth about characteristics of the sign itself, and then the little 10-degree sections that are each decan and how they kind of vary, and how we can kind of track any planet going through those decans and like their rulerships, but mainly talking about like the sun and just that general journey, because she releases them at the beginning of that sun season. So right now Libra was just released yesterday. Definitely check that out. She's at Practical Astros all over social media, and you can see the video version over on YouTube. So I was somewhat qualified to talk about Libra because of my sun being in the last decan of Libra, and then I also have the South Node and Mars in the first decan of Libra. So it was fun to get to dive into those topics. It's so interesting for me because it's my 8th house, and while I've always known I was a Libra because of like, sun sign astrology. And sometimes they would lump me with Scorpio because I'm on the very last day of the Libra season for my sun, but mostly Libra. And I didn't always identify with it in terms of like, I don't know, a lot of like the Venusian aspects. Like, I cared a lot about aesthetics. I still do, and art and things like that. So that resonates. But like, I feel like Libra is categorized more in like the traditional way that Venus expresses herself. And like, I mean, like the color pink comes to mind for Libra. And I was definitely not a pink girl. I still don't really wear pink. And yeah, just like the whole style of like Venus and Libra has never really resonated for me. So that all to say that like a lot of the other archetypes of Libra do resonate, but it's still, I think now since learning astrology, that has like really faded to the background for me. It's still important. It's how I like, it's my Mars and my Sun. So it's a huge part of my chart, but I think being in the eighth house kind of like puts it down in like this undercurrent, or like this thing that I don't regularly like realize that I'm doing, or it's a blind spot for me. So it's kind of fallen to the wayside a little bit in terms of like how I look at my chart. And maybe that's just out of like interest in exploring these other pieces of me now that I know about them. But I think it's also because it is like this underlying current versus like the ones that are a little bit maybe louder. I'm sure if you spoke to other people, they might feel differently. But because I see the Libra side to me as well. But for me, it's not like front and center and something that I think about all the time. So yeah, I like this time of year. I have a project that I do over on my Instagram that I'm just starting up again for Libra season. I call it the leaf report. I take a picture out of my living room window every day at like this tree that's outside and the woods across the way. And I love to watch how it changes like little by little, but by the end of the season, it's like completely different than when it started. So the leaves are green right now. It's not super fall looking, but it changes quickly and it's very dramatic. So definitely check that out if you have interest. And now Venus is also in Scorpio. And for a lot of astrologers, a lot of people might, not really love that placement. The Sun and Venus got to have one day together in Libra, the Venus's home sign. But for me, this is like the start of my solar return. My Sun is at the very end of Libra, and my Venus return. My Venus is kind of in the middle of Scorpio. So I love this time of year, as I've said frequently on this podcast. I love it. I love the changing of the seasons. And yeah, it feels like, when you start to have those returns every year in your chart, not every planet is back to where it was when you were born at the same time, typically. But it can kind of feel like this homecoming, or like this, I don't know, return to self, which can feel really comforting. I was laughing to myself on my walk this morning because last week was literally homecoming where I live, in the small town that I live in. And yeah, that was like the word that was just coming to mind this morning for like solar return and Venus return. So I've just been kind of basking in that energy and really like feeling it out today. Trying to like savor it and enjoy it. What else is new? I've been working through my class that I'm taking, Moon to Moon, with Britton LaRue. And actually today is the last day to sign up for that if anyone has any interest. I can't recommend it enough. It's so far we're like 3 weeks in. It's all pre-recorded, so you can totally still join and not feel like you really missed anything. It's all at your own pace, asynchronous. But yeah, there's tons of really useful stuff in there. There's the astrology piece. If you're new to astrology, there's some really good foundational information about the moon in the birth chart. And then there's also this other piece. Well, there are many different pieces, but I love all of it. It's hard to parse out my favorite, but there's a lot of really useful like grounding techniques, like really working on your own intuition and aligning yourself with your moon, and what makes you feel at home energetically. So again, like this homecoming theme is coming up a lot for me of like who am I and what brings me comfort. So some of the techniques in this class I have found super helpful in terms of that. So yeah, if you're interested, today is the last day. The doors are closing. Check it out. Like I said, I can't recommend it more. I feel like I'm growing as an astrologer, but like also just as a person from doing this. And not that we need to like grow or improve all of the time, but like it's helping me to do the things that I want to do. And helping me kind of get right internally to be able to do the things like externally that I would like to. So I'll link to that in the show notes for anyone who's interested. And yeah, on that same note, I'm like feeling into like this new rhythm of life. Obviously, school has started. We've got a little bit of a different schedule this year. So it's been a little bumpy, been a little touch and go with like, what does this new reality look like? And this will probably, I was thinking this morning that it's not just this year that will be like this. It's probably my reality for the next 2 years or so. It'll be a little bit different next year, but where I'll go down to like 2 drop-offs and pickups versus 3. But the schedule will probably be pretty similar to where I've like essentially lost 2 hours of my day to 2 hours of my work day, my quote unquote work day, to childcare responsibilities, which is fun. It's good. It's not good or bad. I have Saturn in the 10th house. So my initial thing is like productivity. I don't have enough hours to do all of the things that I need to do in terms of work. But it's been an opportunity to look at things in a different light and to find a new rhythm and a new flow and like reprioritize again. Okay, what am I holding as most important? Obviously, that's always my kids and my family, myself included up there. So yeah, like reprioritizing and looking at ways to make the best use of that time. Again, Saturn in the 10th. What is the best use of my time? So yeah, like I've been trying to really just savor that extra time with the kids in the morning. One of them I get extra time with because his school doesn't start till a little bit later. So it's been really nice to have that one-on-one time together. Today, for the first time, we were able to walk him to school. And that's not like a thing we can do every day, but like a couple times a week maybe with this new schedule. So taking the time to do like the half-hour walk to school was really nice, especially on this morning. Like I said, it's really beautiful here in Minnesota today. So savoring that while the weather is nice. We live in a town that I think we should take, that is set up in a nice way that I haven't taken full advantage of yet with having little kids. But where it is kind of a small town, but it's still like very walkable from our house. So that's something I want to really, I don't know, really work on incorporating more into my life. Like I have dreams of living abroad in Europe. I have lived in Europe before. And one of the things that I miss the most is just being able to walk to everything and not rely on a car, both for like, climate reasons, but also like health reasons. And I think just in general, like, I mean, there's the literal health of like walking and moving your body, but like the mental health piece that comes along with that and just feeling more like part of the world or part of the environment. These are really like third house topics. It's the moon's joy. It's Monday, the moon's day. So this is on my mind a lot today. But yeah, so I want to start, like I'm feeling into this new rhythm and looking at ways where I can incorporate the life that I would like to have right here today, right now, without like living in the future, which is something as like a Piscean can happen a lot, daydreaming about what could be, which is a skill and also like can be a little bit of a trap when we don't remember that like, oh, I can actually do something about it right now with what I have right here. So feeling into that, I'm also feeling like I'm gaining this momentum and like I'm starting to understand this flow of like, okay, I can take the time to do these things. I think this has been a long time coming of like, I think this is kind of part of my like Saturn Jupiter story and transits of the last few years now with like the square happening, is like for so long being a mom of like newborns and young kids and dealing with just dealing with a lot of responsibility, and then like also living through a pandemic. And trying to do all of that in a pandemic felt like for my own well-being, I needed to say no to so much stuff and to say like, well, I needed to really limit what I was doing and like do the least, essentially the least amount of work. And that means also like saying no to a lot of fun things as well. And now it's like I've started realizing this in the past 2 years, since kind of my, more like 3 years at this point, but like since my journey with astrology has really started, I can start saying yes to things again. And that I do have the time. Like it used to be that I did not. And part of it was responsibility and part of it was mindset, but it's shifting now. And I do still have a very limited amount of time and still need to be realistic about what I do have available to me. But I also need to start saying yes to things, and I have. But I'm realizing now, like, what it takes, or I feel like I'm starting to understand what it takes to do the things that I want to do in terms of like being an entrepreneur, being an astrologer, being an artist, being a writer. It's like starting to make sense to me, all of the steps. It's not, I don't claim to have all of the answers, but like the shape is becoming clearer of what it takes to do that stuff. And that still does mean saying no to a lot of things, but also helps clarify what things I do need to say yes to. And like one of the surprising things I'm finding, again, like part of this is realizations through this moon to moon class that I'm taking, is like, it's not necessarily that difficult. Like, it's really hard to get to this point of like realizing that can be as easy as I want it to be. But I hope that I don't sound like a crazy rambler right now. Please stick with me if you're listening. But I'm just having the realization that I have made it a lot more difficult for myself than it needs to be. And that a lot of the things that I want to do really are quite simple if I can just make the time and like make it a priority to do it. And I mean that from like the largest project perspective, but also like even just building my own intuitive skills. And that most of it is actually about just like surrendering a little bit and like, or a lot of it, and letting it happen versus like white knuckling it and forcing it to happen. Like everything that I've learned about meditation and, building your intuition. I've been doing yoga all of this time too. And I feel like that has been, a lot of that is like the meditation and energy work as well. And it's like the message has always been there that like you just need to like release and surrender. But at the same time, it hasn't always like translated all the way. And now like taking more classes and learning more about intuition, it's like, it really is just like letting yourself feel it and letting yourself be open to it and creating a safe container to do that in, but also just like letting it happen versus being like, well, I can't do it because X, Y, or Z, or I need 2 more years of training to be able to do this. Or I need to like have this specific class to be able to learn how to do X. Like it's simple. And that's what the message has been consistently, is like, you need to like be forgiving to yourself. You need to let go of control or trying to control so much. Control is helpful to some extent. It keeps us safe in a lot of ways, but you really can just like sit with it and like feel it and let it come to you when you make the space to do it. So yeah, it really is that easy, I think. But it's not easy to get there, and it's not easy to remember that. Life comes at you fast, and there's always a lot going on, and it's very easy to like get wrapped up in all of the reasons why we can't do something. But once we can come back to ourselves and like come home again, it can happen a lot faster. I don't know. There's just a lot going on in my brain about about that. And it's all tied in with like giving yourself permission and like, you know, your own self-worth and stories that we tell about ourselves. I think when I was recording my last episode and I was talking about the nodes and the eclipses and how like the 2006, 2007, 2008 eclipses again were in my first and my seventh, and I was like talking about accumulating all of this knowledge and literal books at college, like going to college during that time. And one of the things that like came up for me, and I'm not even sure if I said this in the episode or if it was more after that thinking about it, but a lot of it was about accumulating these like stories about myself that took, you know, the half cycle to like release and maybe the full cycle, the full 18 years. Because now I'm back there again. So I'm trying to be really conscious about like what stories about myself am I picking up right now? What am I like accumulating to like take with me through this next nodal cycle? So yeah, that's just a little light thinking on my brain at the moment. But, you know, I think that there's something really powerful in like being aware of that now and like choosing. I'm going to be really intentional about what I'm choosing to be the stories that I'm taking with me about myself. And maybe part of that story is that I can change that story whenever I want to. I'm a mutable rising. I can change whenever I please. But, you know, deep down, a lot of those things are hard to shift when they're like programmed into us over and over and over again. So, yeah, that's what's in my brain today. I hope that Libra season is off to a good start for you all. I'm looking forward to having some more guests coming on the podcast. Last week, I released the episode with Camille Michelle Gray. I hope that everyone has taken a listen to that. If you haven't, definitely go back and check it out. I just really admire her work and highly recommend her Instagram. Her stories are just like the best Instagram stories you will find if you're interested in astrology. She like shares a lot about what she's going through and how it relates to the transits. If you like what I'm doing here with the transits and talking through how they're affecting me, you'll love what she does. She's a Gemini and hilarious on top of it. Excuse me. Oh, it's allergy season here. That's the only downside to fall for me. So yeah, check out her work. She's presenting this week at Astro Bash 2024. If anyone is in the Sedona area or heading to that, definitely check out her talk. And next week's episode, my guest will be Tara of Love and Luna Astrology. She is amazing, and I'm really excited to share that episode with you all. So be on the lookout for that. And I'm recording with some more guests coming up. I'm starting to build that out. So exciting times here. And yeah, stay tuned. As always, thank you for listening. Feel free to leave a review, leave a rating, drop a comment, share with your friends, subscribe if that's something that you can do where you listen to podcasts. And yeah, enjoy this Libra season. For more information about my work, you can find me at By Jove Astro on Instagram, at By Jove Astrology on Twitter, and the best place to find me of all is at my website, byjoveastrology.com.